and then we'll jump into it. Happy New Year, everyone. This is our first Courage Chat of the new year. For those of you who don't know us, my name is Nicole Shaya, and I'm the founder and chief creative awesome at Tharros, where we empower girls to challenge the status quo in sports and in life. And each month we host a Courage Chat to bring in women who can share their connected stories so that girls and those that support girls can learn from these stories and learn from these experiences and just overall better support girls in their sports journey. So I'm excited to have with us today Carly Noella Nayera. She's an artist, educator, community activist, and an amazing soccer and baseball coach. So welcome, Carly. Thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us today and to share your insights and your own personal story and journey. I'm really excited to learn more about you and to share your knowledge and how you've kept girls empowered and engaged in their sports journeys. So I'll turn it over to you to tell us a little bit more about you and
okay,
how
thank
you
you so
first
much
got
for having
involved in
me.
sports.
I know I don't look it, but I was an athlete growing up and I always loved sports. And then somewhere along the way, I started making art and I left sports behind. And as I became a parent and watched my kids have passion for sports, I started to get more involved and I just tried to do a little bit. I would try to volunteer and I kept saying, I don't want to be a head coach. I'm not interested because I knew that if I started, I would go 110%, which is what happened in the past 2 years. I've just become completely involved and just started coaching, and I really love it. I really love the kids I coach, and it's really similar to teaching for me. Just it's a different thing I'm teaching. I teach art and I teach tech ed and photography in a classroom with high school. So right now I'm coaching young preteen girls, which is a completely different challenge, but also pretty amazing.
I love it. And I love that you have so many different experiences to share from like being an educator and being in the classroom versus, seeing the challenges that girls face and their experiences on the field and how they can just become empowered. So that's awesome. What led you to become an
Um,
educator and a
I
coach?
was working, like I said, I've always been an artist, but I was working in a design build firm, and we were working really mostly with, the top 1%, really wealthy people, which is great, and then a friend of mine actually was running a school in North Philly and he needed an art educator. And I had done that in undergrad, but I just never pursued it because, I was going to be an artist, I thought. Um, and he kept sort of needling me to become a teacher. And I had said to him, if I come in and interview, will you leave me alone? And he said, yeah, fine. And then really somewhere in the middle of the interview, and this was about 15 years ago, I just started talking about education and how important it was to me. I'm first generation. So like, it was just such a big part of my conversations with my parents growing up. Education is the key. Education gets you out of certain things and opens opportunities. And I find myself saying all these things in this interview for a job that I don't even want. And I realized how passionate I was just speaking about it. So at the end of the interview, he offered me a job, and I said, "Whoa, I'm not. I don't. I don't want this job." And then I came home. I talked to my husband. We had a couple conversations, and he was like, I just think you should do it. You love it. So I quit my job the next day. I gave my 2 weeks, and then I was
Wow.
in front of a classroom, and I went into a school that was an alternative school that they were undercredited overage kids. So basically, they were kids that had dropped out of middle school and realized when they were about 17 that they wanted to get a degree. Um, so I started teaching there. They had no curriculum, they had no supplies, and I was just standing there in front of them, and I was like, "Okay, we're gonna do this." And yeah, and then I just have been teaching ever since. And then, I'd always volunteered here and there to, be the team parent, bring snacks, and I would slowly bring my chair closer to the sideline and play with the kids, before practice. And somebody from Kensington Soccer Club, his name is Mike, and he kept encouraging me to coach. He's like, well, just be my assistant. And I was like, oh, fine, I'll do it. I just feel like I need so many people to just push me into things that I know I should be doing. So um, he I just started being his assistant coach, and then he decided to move on. And he sort of left me with this team, and and my daughter and these girls that I cared about had nobody. And so I picked the team up. And yeah, again, the rest is history. I just started coaching, and I didn't realize how much I loved it, and I didn't realize how much that I could connect with younger people. I mean, high school is my age group. I like kids that are about to be adults. Like, that's always been my teaching experience. That's what I do best with. But having a young group of girls that found each other, first of all, they really love one another and they care for one another, and then being excited about being together gave me a renewed energy in my classroom, on the field, just in life in general. And so a lot of my focus has just been on creating positive experiences, and also recognizing that I'm out there coaching, particularly in my soccer league in Philly. I'm one of the only women coaches for girls. You know, most of the teams, almost all the teams I think we played this year have been against male coaches, and recognizing that they felt really safe with me. They could open up. And I also noticed my style is very different than a lot of people that I've coached against. And so I've been doing a gentle coaching. You know, it's similar to gentle parenting, you know, where we're not screaming at one another. You know, we have high standards, but we're also gentle in our approach. Since, when you're at that age, your whole frontal lobe turns to mashed potatoes and they can't control their emotions and things. So balancing that and helping them navigate being a young woman, and also a killer on the field. So that's what I'm doing.
I love that. I love that. And I think it's so important too, the way that you said it, your style is a little bit different than other coaches, just because something that we champion too is that it's a different experience for girls when they reach that age, that adolescent age range. So as much as we can work to try a different style or try a different approach, instead of that, like tried and true method of like being super competitive, always focusing on winning, always focusing on outcomes. I love that you mentioned you focus on the experience and how to make it positive, because these girls really care about each other. So it would be super different if you came in as their leader and you were really competitive and you were making them compete against their friends in a really tough way. Like, that would be a really hard
Yeah.
experience to get through, right? And it seemed like you really met them where
Yeah. I
they
mean,
were
I
at
coach in
too.
Kensington in Philadelphia. We have amazing, wonderful families, amazing, wonderful kids. So a lot of times, though, the kids that we get, they might have never had the opportunity to play before. So we have kids that have had, someone like my child that has, she's 12. She's been kicking a soccer ball since she could walk. We have some girls that are just curious. And, the pay to play system
Hmm.
that we have here in the United States doesn't always leave room for those kids that decide they want to do something. So I'm really mindful of being open and accepting people and having them come and like kind of just feel the vibe of the team, see if it's something they want to do. Because I mean, I have players that I just got last year, and they at this age too, they're like a sponge. They just pick everything up, and they want to be super competitive, and they want to be together as a group. I really feel like some of the girls I have, they're more interested in the social aspects of just being together than the soccer. And then
Mm.
sometimes they're like, all right, we had to do this too. Like we could do both, but
Yeah.
just being open instead of being like, no, you've never played before. I mean, that's kind of a wild idea to expect a 10-year-old to have all this experience when they should be able to try multiple things, multiple sports, to find out who they are, because that's really what it is. I mean, most people in general, whether they're a girl or a boy, or however you identify, um, you're not a professional athlete. It's something that you could do for your whole life. It's like a positive, good habit for your body and for your mind. Teaches you teamwork. So those are all the things that we talk about, and we talk about strategies and winning and trusting one another. And I think that's why my team's successful.
Well, I love what you said too about just not having all the experience to show up. And it's kind of crazy that that's like a
Yeah.
non-traditional way to approach coaching. Um, I just think that's wild. Like, that's pretty insane to me that, today we have so many girls that want to play sport and they're curious, like you said, especially after a certain age, maybe they're not interested at first, or their friends are playing in high school and they want that social aspect, but they don't feel like they have the skill level to actually participate. I think that can be really disheartening. And I think it results in a lot of girls just missing out on the experience altogether, just because of that barrier of, do you have the skill to even participate at
Yeah,
all at a basic
I
level?
mean, I wasn't raised that way either. I mean, my father's been a coach. Geez, I'm 45, so he's been coaching in the States for almost 50 years at this point. And,
Wow.
he's been a good example to me. He's always had a very inclusive, open, loving relationship with every team. I mean, he coached my brother and I. He's coached every single one of his grandkids. He tells me every year he's going to retire. And then and then my mom's like, guess who's not retiring from coaching? And I'm like, yeah, it's Dad, right? But I mean, even still, it was, I mean, you don't realize the impact that you can have on kids just by being somebody positive. And the other day I was far away from home and talking to somebody, and we started talking about soccer, and um, she's, we got to talking, and it turns out that like she knew my father, and, had a positive, and it was just kind of fun.
Oh
Yeah.
my
And she was like,
goodness.
I love your dad. Because she saw my name tag. And I'm like, well, she asked if I knew. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's my dad. And it was just nice, it's like, you don't always know when you put things out there, how it comes back to you, or the positive influence that you have on kids and their families. And it was kind of like, hearing that from that woman was like a reassuring thing to me that, I'm not always coaching to win. I'm coaching to make good people and make happy people. Um, and it was nice to see that his method worked. So I'm going to just kind of keep going with that in my own way. um, yeah, I mean, it's the whole idea behind coaching. I think that sometimes parents just get overwhelmed and they just want their kids to win and be super competitive, and they think about scholarships, and I understand that, but that's really not my focus. I mean, my focus is always about making sure the girls have a good experience, making sure they feel welcome, um, and they feel like they're part of something that's bigger than them. Because those are all the things that I felt as a child when I played sports. Like, it was so important to me. I mean, losing sleep over, I pitched the wrong way or something, at 11, and being up all
Yeah.
night. And now I find myself doing that as a coach. Like, what could I say to the girls to motivate them? Because, my team, they didn't do well this weekend, and they were upset, and I was upset, and because we're used to winning at this point. And I'm like, well, what can I'm like, the same, like, not anxiety, but energy that like kept me up as a child, trying to figure things out and problem solve and being excited, is the same way I feel now as a coach. So I'm reliving my own youth, I guess, as a coach.
I want to touch on something that you brought up too, and I was actually just going to ask that, like some of the learnings you want to share with other coaches or just anyone else that, supports girls either as a parent or as an educator. Like one of the things that you mentioned too is that like you all don't focus on winning, but your team was like on a winning streak or doing really well. So your focus on the experience and making that positive then
Mhm.
translated into you all doing well. So what are some of the things you've learned about like one, creating that positive experience and really helping girls feel empowered? And then two, what about that balance of winning and getting more competitive and trying to uphold that
um,
standard?
a lot of it is just like holding the bar. I mean, I feel like at this point, like after I reflect on this weekend, I'm like, man, we're either having too much fun or not enough fun, because the team feels out of sync because they're so close. So I've already like pulled back, and we're going to have a little team meeting and like say something positive about one another. And we're going to talk a little bit about grit, because they just won the state, the not the state, excuse me. They just won the city championship, and they didn't play well this weekend, and they were really disappointed. And we're going to have a talk about losing gracefully, winning gracefully. And instead of, I always like, we either win or we learn. And that's really hard. That's really hard. That's really hard
Mhm.
for preteens to understand that, or really for anybody to understand that. because at the end of there is a time, and at the end, you either have more goals or you don't, So um,
Right.
a lot of what we do to just build the team is just to do things outside of we do some community service stuff. I know in a few weeks we're going to be creating we're going to make Valentine's Day cards as a group, just something fun, and then we're actually going to donate them to the senior center and to the food pantry. We did that last year, and it was just a really nice. We're not talking about soccer. We're not talking about any. I mean, they eventually will always talk about soccer, but it's a low stress, low pressure team building experience. That's not just about building their skills; it's building them up as people, so they feel confident to try things. I mean, I think that's a lot of what it is just teaching anybody, students, players, everybody, how to have confidence and take risks and to be good people and to feel good about taking those risks. I mean, I think especially this age group, they're really afraid. They're really afraid someone's going to see them, or, they're very worried about, well, some of them, not all, but very worried about how they look, how they're going to be perceived. If they make a
Yeah.
mistake, they feel like everybody's watching them, but we constantly talk about being positive. We constantly talk about lifting one another up. Um, and I think that that's the culture of our team now. So when we play other teams and their coaches don't treat them that way, it actually affects my girls. They're like, I can't believe that coach yelled the way that they did. And I was like, yeah, I'm like, I'm like, that's their journey. This is our journey. We're going to do our thing, without being critical of other people. But I think that even at 11 and 12, they recognize that my style is probably better for them. The way that I approach coaching and building the team.
Yeah, and they can see that difference too. Like I'm sure when you lose on a team like that experience is much different. It's not a learning process, it's like a defeating process of just being really down on yourself versus trying to improve and grow together as a team and figure out how you can, work towards something greater together. So I love that they see that even when they are so young, and that you're there for them because I think it's just such a cool way to approach coaching, I think in general. Um, so how did you like when you first started coaching, how did you navigate your journey? Like were there any tools or resources that you want to share that would be helpful for someone else, or even like as a parent, or seeing parents of your players, like what are some helpful things for them to learn about how to better support girls in their sports journey, whether it's they're just getting started or they've been competing and they're really, constantly trying to raise the bar and like almost like burning themselves
Well, I
out,
think,
to that point.
as a parent, I think a lot of times it's just about, or and whatever the adult is in their life, because as we know, not everybody has parents. I think a lot of it's just about
Yeah.
helping them navigate their feelings. Like, you're allowed to be angry, you're allowed to be upset, but that doesn't mean you take it out on other people. I mean, we talk about that a lot, like own your mistake and move on, or I think, they have really big feelings. And I always say, like, you're allowed to have big feelings. You just shouldn't always have big reactions. So I think as a parent, it's just to help them, or the adult, it's just to help them navigate those things. It's listening to them. Like even my own daughter, she never not wants to go to practice, but if she tells me she really doesn't feel well, I mean, this has maybe happened like 3 times, like I really need a break, then I'm okay with that. Like take a break where, I mean, I constantly say that to the players. If you really need a break, like, and it's not out of laziness, not that kids are lazy, but you know what I mean, or you really need to finish a project and you're stressed about it, school comes first, then they feel comfortable telling me that,
Mm-hmm.
and they always do. Um, I would say that like as far as skill, I try to break everything down. I mean, I think being a teacher has really helped. I can assess things, diagnose I could see what the problem is, and then we talk about it, we attack it in practice, in our training. Like these are the skills that, our team didn't do so well passing. So we're going to practice passing, and then and then I tell them everything. Then we're going to apply it in the scrimmage at the end. And I want to see what you've done. I want to see the skill that you've learned, and it's okay if you make mistakes. So I think a lot of it is just direct instruction. Like, we're going to do this, and this is why. And then in the scrimmage, you praise them. Like, oh, I noticed that I love that you tried that move. I love that passing sequence, like constant positive reinforcement, but also always explaining to the kids as a coach why we're doing what we're doing. It's not just a random drill that I just Googled, right? I saw that we needed this, and now I want you to apply it. And then also remind them, because that's how kids' brains work, right? They always look for something familiar to attach to. So you say, remember we did this, and now we're doing this. And now and then every week I'm like, now we have 3 skills that I want to see in this scrimmage, what we learned last week, what we learned this week, and like 2 weeks ago. And then you constantly have to remind them that they have certain skills.
I love that. It's like really structuring for them what you want to see applied when they're on the field and they're like
Yeah.
actually in the moment in the game. It's really prepping them for it instead of saying like, use your
Mm-hmm.
judgment. We've given you the skills, like figure it out, and we want to do this play. Like sometimes that play doesn't
Right.
always happen the way you thought it was going to. So giving them those skills and those tools, I
There's
think
a lot of
is
positive
brilliant.
talk too, as far as instead of saying like, I want to see it, I'll be like, you should be proud of yourself, instead of me just saying, they need to hear that I'm proud of them.
Mhm.
But they also need to hear that I'm proud of that they tried, and they also need to recognize that they're allowed to be proud of themselves. So one magical phrase that works for my team anyway is I'll just be like, I'll tell them, like, if they're down, I'm like, come on, I know you believe in yourself. Like, don't give up on yourselves yet. Like, don't give up on me yet. I know and just constantly tell them, like, not to give up, that I recognize that they feel bad, but I believe in them. Or like sometimes I am very passionate sometimes when I coach. So I'll be like, like, I believe in you, and then, someone on the sideline is always like, all right. Well, it's usually my daughter. I'm like, Mom, you're embarrassing me again. And I was like, well, you know who I am as a person. You know I'm going to embarrass you, so just get used to it. So it's just like constant.
And you want
Yeah.
her to remember those positive
Yeah.
things while she's like in
Yeah.
that moment and not feeling so great. I want to be coached by
Thank
you.
you.
You
I
sound
try. I
the
really
best coach
try.
ever.
And, every time a new person comes in, it's a new dynamic, so then it's like an adjustment period,
Yeah.
there's making them feel welcome, because I think it's like the beauty of the team, but also like when a new person comes in, they don't always feel, I wouldn't say they don't feel welcome, but they just recognize that that the girls are so close. So that's why we constantly try to do things outside of practice. Like, hey, we're in the city. So after practice, I'll be like, hey, there's Wendy's is right there. Like, if everyone does really well, I'll buy everybody a Frosty. And then they just get to sit with their Frosty. And we always invite the new person. And then they usually want to come back. So it has nothing to do with soccer. It has
That's
nothing to even do with me. It has to just do with feeling a connection with other girls like them. I think, that's why my daughter was drawn to baseball. I do coach baseball too. I've talked a lot about soccer, but my daughter, again, has been the driving force behind a lot of this, because I wanted her to have opportunities and I wanted to be involved. And I'm always like, well, if I'm there anyway, I might as well help, and then I just insert myself in some way. But she wanted to play baseball, and she had a really bad experience with a coach as a young kid. Um, she witnessed racism. Long story short, she witnessed racism towards one of her best friends at the hands of her softball coach when she was like 6. And then she just decided not to play anymore. She just wanted nothing to do with it. Pandemic, all that stuff. And then coming out of the pandemic, some of her friends that are boys were like, just play baseball with us. Like, and she was like, okay. And she did, like she didn't even think that she could do that. And then she did it. So she was like one of the
Love
only
that.
girls in her league, and like more and more girls are joining that baseball league. And then there's Philly Girls Baseball, which is an all girls baseball team. And her first time there with those girls, which was 2 years ago now, she was like, she literally just was like, Mom, these are my people. Like she just felt they were all the girls
Oh,
that were the only girls on the boys teams, you know. So she felt really welcoming and comfortable with those people. So I really just tried to get involved so that you there was somebody else there for her. And like luckily
that's
the first
amazing.
league that she plays in, like all of it's really important to have allies. All of the men in that league um, are awesome and
Mhm.
treat her as an equal and like push her to do things that a lot of other leagues don't. Like she's the first girl to ever pitch in that league. Um, she's a catcher, which a lot of times girls that play baseball, they're usually stuck in right field. They don't give them a chance to play the power positions, but you know there's a really good group of guys that pushed her and then encouraged me to coach because they think it's important for their boys to see coaches that are women too. So I never played baseball. I played softball my whole life, but it's pretty similar. So like I know the basics. I'm never going to be a pitching coach, but you know, I know the strategy. So that's been fun too.
I think that's so amazing, like on so many different levels. One, that the boys, their reaction was like, just come play with us. Like, just having that, it's just like warms my heart for so much hope for the future that there'll be more opportunities like that. Yeah, and just like the men that are involved too, and that they want to see representation from women in that sport. Like, I think that's just amazing too. I hope we have more of it. I know we're starting to see things change more and more, but just the fact that you have that in your community and that your daughter gets to experience it. I mean, it came out of something that was not a great experience at all. And it's something probably that she's going to remember for a really long time. But look now what
Mm.
she gets to look forward to, and that experience of just like there's so much power in unity, and the fact that that baseball team gave her that sense of community again. I'm just,
Well,
yeah,
I think
just
it
love hearing
speaks to
that.
also just adults being good people and like,
Mm.
her friends, their parents are very open-minded and kind, and they encourage their boys to be that way and, you know, never ever excluded her from things, like she ended up being in Cub Scouts with them because they're like, who cares if she's a girl? Like if she wants to, do rock climbing, like, so it's just like when you're positive and you're like a good person and open. And I mean, I feel that way. Like I feel like I've been very blessed in so many ways to have so many positive people around me all the time, that push me to do things, and I want that for my daughter too. um, and I think a lot of coaching is just me paying it forward, and it's also me trying to continue to keep good people around me and my kid and the community. It's there's so many things I could focus on that aren't positive. Sometimes I feel that way, especially, I mean, I live in Kensington, and I purposely am not stuck here. I purposely moved here to be part of a community that needs people, um, like me, that where I could use my financial privilege, the very little that I have, um, to put money in a community that needs it, to be a mentor when I have more time maybe than others. I was a single mom for a really long time. I was a teenage mom. That's actually why I stopped playing sports at 16.
I
Yeah,
didn't
so
know
that's
that.
really, I mean,
Okay,
I
yep.
I couldn't play sports because I was a kid. I had a kid that had a kid. I was 16. So my son's
Wow.
actually 28. And I coached him in soccer when he was little, just because I was like, that was like the thing that I knew. I was so young, so that's one
Yeah.
thing I could do for him. So it's like my way of paying it forward. Um, and also, I mean, I missed a lot of my son's life because I was working so much. Um, so I think that like I really cherish my time with my daughter because I actually, I mean, so
Yeah.
I know what it's like. Like I want to be the adult that was there for other parents, like the adults were there for me. Go ahead, mama. If you got to work 3 jobs, I got your kid. We're gonna do homework club. Like we do homework club before
Mm.
practice on Wednesdays. Like we're going to get them reading. We're going to make sure they're like fed and happy because someone did that for me. So, and I came from a great support system. You know, I have my parents are together. They love me. They supported me. They still do. I think my dad at one point probably I saw his name pop up on the he joined for a second. um, so
Hi,
yeah, like
Dan.
it's a lot of just you know you have one life, right? And I it makes me happy to serve people, you know. And if my daughter's like super into badminton next year, you know, I'll get super into badminton and I'll figure it out and I'll coach that if I have to. You know, it just
Yeah.
it's just trying to pay it forward, I guess, is really what I'm trying to do personally. So I mean, I feel like I get more from it than
Yeah, like
than other people get from it, you know.
I feel like have you ever
No,
read the
I
book The
haven't.
Go-Giver?
Okay, thanks.
Oh, I'm gonna send it to you. Okay. It's the best book ever because you're such a go-giver too. It's like basically giving, like giving is better than receiving. That kind, like just your overall approach. Like you're already a natural go-giver, but it's so interesting just because that's how you approach everything. Like the way that you create that experience for your girls, the way that you approach coaching. It's just an amazing message, I think, to send to like parents,
Thank
educators,
you.
and coaches all together, or just any adult that is working with girls, or just supporting girls in their community, that we should just be constantly focusing on giving. Like, how can we give and support instead of focusing on outcomes or things that we're focused on, like goals and future and like scholarships and college. Like all of those things are important, but first and foremost, it's like that human experience and that human connection. So I love that you stand for that and that your message is so strong. I think it's amazing
Oh,
that,
thank
and
you.
they're so lucky to have you. I wish we could just like replicate you in every community and just see how many girls stands for. If you could go back to young Carly, what would you in middle school or high school, like what would you say to her?
I, man, I don't. I mean, I think it would just be enjoy it, but I mean, I did enjoy it. You know, like I would just
Yeah.
say like you're just doing the right thing, I guess. You know, I mean, I not. I mean, I could always be like, well, tell me not to have a kid or something like that at 16, but I don't even feel, I mean, I don't feel that way at all. I feel like everything happens for a reason, and every hardship I've gone through has brought me to where I am, and I like who I am, and I like where I am. Um, I would probably like tell me to save more money. That's probably like the only thing I would say. And like appreciate the
Save
abs
more
you have
money for the
now
future.
because you will not have them when you're 45. Um, like just silly things like that. But overall, I feel like um, I really did. I had a really wonderful childhood. I just in like a naive way too. Like life didn't hit me until I like hard until I was older. Like I had two parents that loved me. We didn't have much, but we had love and we had each other. And I had a big extended family, like Ecuadorian side, and I had a whole bunch of Italians on this side. And you know, there's always like food and dancing or something. You know, I just think I would be like, man, just remind myself how privileged I am in love. Um, but yeah, I wouldn't. I think I would just tell myself to appreciate it, like in the moment.
Be great, like
Yeah.
gratitude, be grateful. That's a good one. Are there role models that influenced your life in positive
But
ways?
my parents um, are great. I mean, my extended family was always great. Um, I had really wonderful coaches growing up. There were two in particular. Mr. Pressman, his name was. He's since passed. He was my softball coach growing up, and he recognized that I was like such a aggressive athlete, and he pulled me up to like the older girls team, and it made me feel so special. And but he was the kind of guy that he would have if we wanted to, he would always have practice, and then he would say like if anybody wants to stay to do something, and I would always want to stay. And he would basically run little mini practices with me and two of my other friends that were really into it, um, until the he was saying until the snow hits the ground. So we'd be out there freezing until like December, and he'd be doing little drills with us. And he was a volunteer coach. I think he was super positive. And then I had in high school, and I lost touch with her, and I've looked all over for her on social media. Her name is Coach Russell, and I know she got married, so I don't know her married name, but um, I was at a really small private school, like a Christian school on scholarship. And she was my coach for everything. She coached me in field hockey. She coached me in basketball. She coached me in softball. Um, and she was really hard on me. And I think at the time I needed it. Like she was like, nope,
Mhm.
you're going to run like 2 laps. But then she would like, or more than 2 laps, it'd be like 2 miles really. But then she'd be like, okay, now we can get pizza. Like, she was very much high standards for us, and made, even though we were a really small school, made us believe that we were just as good as the big schools and stuff. And we were, like, a lot of the girls on my team ended up for field hockey anyway, going to play like Division 1 and stuff like that. Um, and then,
Wow.
I mean, I've just really had, and I would say really one of the biggest influences in my whole life is my son. Um, I had like a sense of, I knew that my life would be different when he was born. I was just talking to him the other day about this. I was like, I remember sitting in the car driving home from the hospital with you and just looking at him and being like, oh my gosh, everything's different now. Like, I knew at 16 that, like, I will not be going to, I mean, my parents still were great, and that I still played sports my senior year, but I knew everything would be different. But I feel like a lot of what I did was for him. I just, making me stay in school, making me go to college, and all the other adulty things that I did in the past. I really did so that he wouldn't feel slighted because he had a young mom. I mean, I don't know if that's too much information, but um, I think just being his mom changed everything for me, and it made me be it. It allowed me to be a better mom and wife and everything, because he was sort of a guinea pig. We talk about that a lot. He's like, they're like, how, jokingly, like, how come Clementine gets away with stuff? And I'm like, well, you were the guinea pig. I saw what worked for you. you know?
I hear the first always is.
Oh,
I'm like
okay. I'm
on the
I'm
younger
the
end of
oldest.
my
The oldest always
siblings
gets it worse, right?
lineup, but the oldest, that's what I hear. The oldest is always the first to try things out, and then the younger
Yeah.
ones benefit from it, from the trial and error. But I love what you said because he's. It sounds like he was a lot of like a big
Yeah.
part of your motivation to keep growing, keep learning, and really thinking how you can apply like everything that you've learned in a way that's going to make positive change too, and like you said, be there for the person that was there for you. You want to emulate that too for your girls, which is awesome. And so what's one thing you want to see change in the future for like women and girls in sport? There's a lot of change happening right now for women's sport and for girls sport, but like what's one thing
Um,
that you would love
I
to
would
see?
like to see, well, there's a couple of things. I would like to see women put their money behind other women, right? I mean, I always think about how much the NFL
Mhm.
makes every year from women and all the pink stuff that they sell. I mean, we have a lot of spending power that we didn't used to. So I would like to see women put their money behind other women athletes. I would like to see more women coaches for girls. I just in general, but for girls,
Yeah.
but and for boys. I mean, why not? And I would hope
Yeah.
that adults are raising their children with more respect. I mean, I really hope the comment section of any WNBA post is not reality. I mean, I think that it doesn't bother me because it's not me, but it does. It just upsets me sometimes when I see that, and I'm like, why are you so hateful? Like, just let them be. They're just playing something that they love. Something that you love. You probably love basketball too. So just, I would like to see people be kinder to women athletes. And I also think I would like to see, on the younger side, I would like to see girls just try more things. Try whatever you want, really. Just go
And
for it.
just go for it. I
Yeah.
love that. Those are all good messages. I love it. Anything else? This has been amazing, but anything else that you want to share with
Um,
our community?
no, I would just say that, like, even if, like, as a coach, even if you think you can't, I mean, just try it. I mean, most coaches just go into it I mean, if you have knowledge of the sport and you were a kind person, just give it a chance. Like even if you started as an assistant, that's what I did. And it's fun. You don't always have to, sit on the sidelines. Get involved. I think it's important for your girls to see you be involved.
That's amazing. And we do have a resource from Carly that we'll be sharing at some point this month, her checklist to keep girls engaged. So if you're interested, make sure you connect with us and we'll be sharing it out when it's ready. But Carly, I just wanted to thank you so much for everything. Like you were the definition of courage today. You shared your personal journey. You shared your story. You told us, your insights and your learnings. And I'm just so grateful to have you a part of our community and that there's someone like you out there with just so many girls that you're impacting.
Thank
I'm
you
just
so
so
much. I
grateful.
appreciate you
So
having
I
me.
appreciate you.
Bye.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks
you.
everyone for joining. Bye.